The owner of Incognito Market has just been identified and arrested thanks to some truly unthinkable OPSEC mistakes. This guy should have known better. Also in your hacking news roundup, a government insider is raising the alarm about vulnerabilities in mobile networks, and Iran has a new hacking campaign with some pretty clever phishing tactics. But first, the alleged owner of Incognito Market has just been revealed as a Taiwanese guy, Ray Xianglin, and if found guilty, he's facing a minimum sentence of life in prison. But before we get to how he was caught, what do we know about the guy? Well, quite a lot, because just like any 23-year-old in the tech industry, he has a nice little personal website which helps tie everything together. He describes himself as a back-end and blockchain engineer and Monero enthusiast. He's been quite active in the Monero subreddit over the past few years, even running his own Monero nodes. He also appeared in a YouTube video on the Pentester Academy YouTube channel demoing one of his open source projects. Ray Xian did a great job of hiding in plain sight. His X account shows that his latest and probably last tweet for a good while was about analysing crypto transactions of popular darknet markets, which included his baby, Incognito Market. The guy seems pretty knowledgeable on crypto. He even has a Chainalysis cert for blockchain analysis. This all makes how he was caught all the more amusing. Court documents show that on one occasion, Bitcoin from Incognito's admin wallet was sent to what court documents call Swapping Service 1. Then, minutes later, roughly the same amount, but in Monero, was deposited in a crypto exchange account registered in the guy's real name, with his driver's license even on file for KYC. Now, had this been a one-off, you might just call it a coincidence, but he repeated this cash-out method on numerous occasions, and in one case, when the swapping service confiscated his Bitcoin due to it coming from Incognito, he publicly posted on a forum the time he sent his funds and the amount, which helped the feds identify the exact transaction and his wallet. But it gets worse. He used that Incognito admin wallet to pay for various domains on Namecheap, some costing tens of thousands of dollars, and that Namecheap account just so happens to be registered in his real name, again directly connecting him to the dark web marketplace. And it turns out the feds have been on the tail of Incognito for years. Court documents reveal that the FBI executed search warrants on Incognito servers in 2022 and again in 2023, revealing the site's DDoS prevention system as well as a database containing a history of all completed transactions. At its peak, Incognito Market had over 250,000 users and was raking in $5 million per month in orders, rising to become one of the most popular and trustworthy darknet markets of its time. So you might have thought this takedown would have put the darknet community in a somber mood. Well, that might have been the case had its operator retired gracefully. Incognito pulled an exit scam in March and made darknet history when they held their users to ransom, threatening to leak the contents of private messages between buyers and vendors if vendors didn't pay a hefty ransom. Despite the fact that on April 1st, the market's operator revealed that this was just one big April Fool's joke, a bunch of vendors had already paid up and people just weren't happy. And so the reaction of the dark web community to his arrest is just as you'd imagine. And interestingly, the feds aren't the only people to have uncovered his identity. The owner of Dread, Hugbunter, says he linked Ray Xiang to Incognito's owner, better known by the name Pharaoh on Dread, after Pharaoh shared a list of Monero nodes, one of which wasn't mentioned on any public list anywhere on the interwebs, other than Ray Xiang's personal site. I thought, he can't be this stupid to share his own nodes like that, but his site made me believe instantly that this is him. Hugbunter explains that when Incognito pulled their little extortion scheme, he did, for a moment, consider doxing Ray Xiang, but changed his mind when those private messages weren't leaked. I'm no lawyer, but the case against Ray Xiang seems pretty solid. They even found a hand-drawn flowchart detailing the inner workings of Incognito that he had emailed to himself months before Incognito was even launched. The guy then made the mistake of a lifetime after he boarded a flight from St. Lucia to Singapore, which just so happened to have a stop in New York, where upon touchdown he was promptly arrested. A whistleblower within America's cyber defense agency has spoken out about how security problems in mobile networks that have been known about for years are still to this day being used by spies to, well, spy. The root of the problem lies in the mobile network protocol SS7. It's used by mobile networks around the world when you venture outside of your cell carrier's network and start roaming. The protocol essentially allows mobile networks to communicate with each other, making sure your text messages are forwarded, calls are relayed, and so on. And according to Kevin Briggs, CISA's senior advisor for telecommunications, there have been numerous recent successful attempts to exploit SS7, which have seen people's locations tracked, voice and text messages monitored, and he claims it's even been used to deliver spyware to victims' phones. But this, he says, is just the tip of the proverbial iceberg, and that the problem goes a whole lot deeper. The problem with SS7 lies in the fact that it was developed back in a time when people generally didn't put too much thought into security. As such, the protocol was designed with inherent trust, meaning one cell carrier could use the SS7 network to tell another, hey, your customer just connected to our network, so we're going to need a list of their text messages so we can forward them to them. And the other carrier would happily oblige. So if an attacker were to compromise a network, or maybe even set up their own, then they could potentially send fraudulent SS7 messages. In practice, however, doing that is complex, since different carriers have different roaming agreements, and nowadays mobile networks have firewalls to detect malicious access, and other layers of security built on top of this very insecure protocol. As such, an attacker really has to know what they're doing. I mean, you're not going to find a tutorial for this stuff on YouTube. However, hacking it is clearly not difficult enough, especially given we have a high-level guy within CISA publicly speaking out about the issue without approval from his agency. In the real world, exploiting SS7 is typically reserved for advanced threat actors like intelligence agencies, which might be some clue why there's been insufficient efforts to address the problem. However, the tide may be turning, because this CISA guy isn't the only person to raise awareness here. US Senator Ron Wyden, who is pretty much the only politician that ever comes up on this channel for actually doing good things, recently published an open letter urging Biden to do something about the problem. And the FCC did recently launch a probe into all this. However, it's very early days and there's no guarantee this will result in real action.
Researchers at Google have uncovered a cyber espionage campaign being operated by Iran's APT-42. This group has been around for a couple years now and is thought to be affiliated with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps intelligence organization. Bit of a mouthful. Google says this new operation targets all kinds of people, NGOs, media organizations, legal services, and activists, but all with the same aim of hacking into and then gathering as much intel from the victims as possible. Step 1 of the campaign is building trust. It all starts with a totally fake sock puppet persona which contacts a victim via email. Over time, they build a rapport and gain the victim's trust before launching the next stage of the campaign, harvesting credentials. This can take various forms, though in one case, the sock puppet said they wanted to set up a meeting with the victim and sent what appears to be a Google Meet link. On first glance, the page looks totally legit. I mean, it's even hosted on Google's domain. However, the URL in the bottom left is an indicator that something just ain't right. You see, the bad guys here are hosting the site using Google's website builder, which gives them that totally legit Google domain, adding a hell of a lot of authenticity. However, the dead giveaway is that the page asks for verification, asking you to sign in with your Google account, which does nothing but gives the miscreants your credentials. There's a few variations of this harvesting credential step. Sometimes the bad guys will use a law document to trick the victim into handing over their Dropbox creds, other times it's a fake YouTube login page, or in some cases it might be a fake LinkedIn website which grabs your Outlook creds. It's all tailored based on the specific victim. The next stage of the operation, infiltrating the target's cloud environment, involves the bad guys logging into the victim's account and exfiltrating emails, documents, pretty much anything of interest. And in order to blend in, this isn't automated. The hackers do it the old-fashioned way, using the built-in tools of the cloud environment to manually sift through documents and download what they're after. The Google researchers explained that in some cases, the Iranian hackers managed to gain access to a victim's RDP sessions, in which case they'll explore the victim organization's environment using native Windows commands to avoid detection, before stuffing files into 7-zip archives and then just downloading them. In this campaign, the Iranian hackers don't try to in any way disrupt the victim's systems. Rather, this campaign is purely focused on gaining as much intel as possible from organizations which have proven themselves to be, shall we say, hostile to Iran's interests.
As always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.